Lily Elliot discovered her father had forgotten her 6th birthday on the same day. She asked him to marry her teacher. And the collision of those two truths would shatter everything. Alexander Elliot thought he knew about love, loss, and what his daughter actually needed. The Merced sat idling outside Westbridge Academy, rain drumming against bulletproof windows, while inside the backseat Alexander checked his phone for the 14th time in as many minutes. Stock alerts, meeting notifications, a reminder about Tokyo that he'd already rescheduled twice. "Daddy." He didn't look up. "Yes, sweetheart. Can you marry Miss Ilara?" His thumb froze mid-swipe. Alexander looked at his daughter, really looked, for the first time in what might have been weeks. Lily sat with perfect posture, too perfect for a 6-year-old, hands folded in her lap, dark eyes too serious, too old. She'd been quiet since her mother died 3 years ago. Therapists said it was normal. Grief processed differently in children. But this wasn't grief. This was hope. And it terrified him. "What?" he managed. "Miss Ilara, my teacher, can you marry her?" Lily's voice was small but certain. "She loves me the way Mommy did." The words hit like a fist to the chest. Alexander hadn't heard his daughter mention her mother in 18 months. The therapist said that was progress. Moving on. Healthy detachment. Now he wondered if they'd been wrong about everything. "Sweetheart, that's not, people don't just get married because," he stopped, tried again. "Why would you say that?" "Because she braids my hair every morning, and she packs me extra snacks, and she sits with me at lunch so I'm not alone." Lily's fingers twisted in her school uniform. "And today when I was sad, she hugged me, really hugged me, like Mommy used to." "Why were you sad?" Lily looked at him with those two old eyes. "Because you forgot my birthday." The words landed like stones in deep water, sinking, crushing. Alexander's hand went to his phone, pulled up the calendar, and there it was, October 15th, Lily's birthday, marked 6 months ago, with 17 meetings scheduled on top of it. He'd forgotten his daughter's 6th birthday. "Lily, It's okay, Daddy, you're very busy." Her voice was practiced, rehearsed, the kind of understanding no 6-year-old should have mastered. Miss Ilara brought cupcakes for everyone. She said every birthday deserves celebration, even if nobody else remembered. She'd remembered. This teacher, this stranger, had remembered when he'd forgotten. "We'll celebrate this weekend," Alexander said, already pulling up his assistant's contact. "Anything you want, Disneyland, that new toy store, we can." "I don't want Disneyland." Lily's voice was still quiet, still calm, still devastating. "I want you to meet Miss Ilara and maybe see why I love her." Before Alexander could respond, his phone rang. "Tokyo, urgent." He answered it and watched his daughter's face do something worse than cry. She just looked away. Like she'd expected it. Like she'd expected him to choose the phone. 20 minutes later, after the call ended and the car had pulled away from the school, Alexander made a decision he'd been avoiding for 3 years. He was going to meet this teacher. Not because Lily asked, but because for the first time since his wife died, his daughter had shown emotion about something other than her mother's absence. And he needed to understand why. The next morning, Alexander walked into Westbridge Academy for the first time since enrollment. He'd sent assistants for parent-teacher conferences, nannies for pickup, drivers for everything else. The $75,000 annual tuition was supposed to cover personal attention. Apparently, it hadn't covered enough. The headmistress, a severe woman named Dr. Whitmore, intercepted him in the marble foyer. "Mr. Elliot, we weren't expecting you. I want to meet my daughter's teacher." "Of course, though I should mention Miss Reed is teaching right now, if you'd like to schedule." "Now." Dr. Whitmore's expression tightened, but money talked, and Alexander Elliot had paid enough to buy flexibility. She led him through corridors lined with children's artwork and motivational posters, the kind of cheerful environment designed to make wealthy parents feel like their emotional neglect was being properly compensated for. They stopped outside a classroom. Through the window, Alexander could see 20 small children sitting in a circle on a rainbow rug. And at the center, reading from a picture book with animated enthusiasm, was a woman who made him forget how to breathe. Before we continue, can I ask you a question? Where in the world are you watching from? Comment below because we'd love to know how far these stories travel, and hit that subscribe button. She was nothing like he'd expected. No designer clothes or calculated beauty. Just simple jeans and a sweater, hair pulled back in a messy bun, face bare of makeup. She looked young, late 20s maybe, and completely absorbed in the story she was telling. But what stopped him wasn't her appearance. It was Lily. His daughter, his quiet, serious, too-old daughter, was laughing. Actually laughing, head thrown back, eyes bright, completely unguarded. Alexander hadn't seen her laugh like that in 3 years. "That's Miss Reed," Dr. Whitmore said. "She's been with us for 2 years, excellent teacher, the children adore her." Why wasn't I informed she was teaching Lily's class? You were, multiple times. Your assistant confirmed receipt of all communications. Of course, his assistant had handled it, like she handled everything related to Lily's school. Because he'd been too busy building an empire to notice who was actually raising his daughter. The story ended. Miss Reed closed the book, and then she did something that made Alexander's chest tighten. She looked directly at Lily, smiled, and signed something. His daughter signed back. "She knows sign language?" Alexander asked. "Miss Reed, yes, she's fluent. One of our students last year was deaf." Dr. Whitmore paused. "Why?" Because Alexander's wife had been learning sign language when she died, had been taking classes, had told him it was important to understand different ways of communicating. And somehow this teacher, this stranger, was continuing what his wife had started. "I need to speak with her, alone." "Mr. Elliot, she's in the middle of." "I'll wait." He waited 45 minutes, watched through the window as Miss Reed moved through the day with patience and warmth and complete presence. She noticed when one child struggled, celebrated when another succeeded, gave individual attention while maintaining group harmony. She was everything Alexander was. Present, patient, actually paying attention. Finally, the children were dismissed for recess. Miss Reed started cleaning up, and Dr. Whitmore knocked on the door. "Elara, someone to see you." Miss Reed looked up, saw Alexander, and her expression shifted not to awe or calculation but to wariness. Like she knew exactly who he was. And wasn't impressed. "Mr. Elliot," she said, standing, "I was wondering when you'd show up." The words hit like an accusation. "You know who I am." "Hard not to. Your daughter talks about you constantly." She set down the books she'd been organizing, though she usually uses past tense. "Daddy used to read to me. Daddy used to carry me to bed. Daddy used to smile." Alexander's jaw clenched. "I'm a busy man." "So I've heard from your assistants, your drivers, your nannies, everyone except you." Elliot eyed her arms. "Is there something you needed, Mr. Elliot, or are you just checking to make sure the expensive school you're paying for is doing its job?" "I want to know why my daughter asked me to marry you." Alara's eyes widened, then she laughed sharp and surprised. "She did what?" "Yesterday, in the car. She asked if I would marry you because you love her like her mother did." The laughter died. Alara's expression softened into something painful. "Oh, Lily. So I need to know what you've been telling her, what promises you've been making, what kind of relationship you think." "I haven't been telling her anything." Alara's voice was firm. "I've been showing up, every day, braiding her hair because she comes to school with it tangled, packing extra snacks because she never has enough, sitting with her at lunch because she eats alone while other kids play, being present because her father is. You have no right. I have every right, because I'm the one who held her while she cried last week when she realized you'd miss her school play. I'm the one who celebrated her birthday yesterday when you forgot. I'm the one who sees her, Mr. Elliot, actually sees her. And what I see is a little girl who's desperate for her father to love her as much as he loves his company. The words were a knife between his ribs. I do love her. Then prove it, because right now, all she knows is that you send money and strangers. And neither of those things make her feel like she matters. Alexander wanted to argue, to defend himself, to explain that everything he did, the long hours, the missed events, the emotional distance, was to secure Lily's future. But looking at Alara Reed, at this woman who barely knew his daughter but somehow understood her better than he did, Alexander couldn't find the words. "What do you want from me?" he asked quietly. "I don't want anything from you, but Lily wants her father, not your money, not your guilt, just you, present, engaged, actually caring about her life." Alara moved closer. "So here's what's going to happen. Starting next week, the school is implementing mandatory parent involvement sessions for students showing emotional withdrawal. Lily qualifies, which means you'll be here every Tuesday. No assistants, no excuses, just you and your daughter and me, working on rebuilding what you've let break." "You can't force me." "No, but Dr. Whitmore can. It's in your enrollment contract. Section 47, mandatory family participation when student well-being is at risk." Her smile was sharp. "I had her pull it this morning. After Lily came in and told me you forgot her birthday, I knew you show up eventually, and I wanted to be ready." Alexander stared at her. This woman who'd outmaneuvered him, who'd used his own contract against him, who was standing in a classroom that smelled like crayons and juice boxes, looking at him like he was just another problem to solve. "Why do you care?" he asked. "Because someone has to, and clearly you've forgotten how." Before he could respond, the door burst open. Lily stood there out of breath, eyes wide. "Daddy, you're here." She looked between him and Alara. "Are you did Miss Alara?" "Your father and I were just discussing his involvement in our weekly sessions," Alara said smoothly, kneeling to Lily's level. "He's going to be here every Tuesday. Isn't that wonderful?" Lily's face transformed, hope pure and devastating. "Really?" Alexander looked at his daughter, at the teacher who'd forced his hand, at the choice in front of him. He could fight this, pull Lily from the school, find somewhere that didn't require his actual presence. Or he could show up. For the first time in 3 years, actually show up. "Really?" he said, and watched his daughter's smile break his heart and heal it simultaneously. The first Tuesday session was a disaster. Alexander showed up 15 minutes late, despite clearing his entire afternoon, and found Lily and Alara already working on some art project involving handprints and paint. "You're late," Alara said without looking up. "I had a call." "You had a choice, and you chose the call." She finally looked at him. "Lily, sweetheart, can you explain to your father what we're making?" Lily held up a piece of paper covered in colorful handprints. "A family tree, but made of hands. See, this is Mommy's hand." She pointed to a pink handprint. "I traced it from a photo, and this is mine. And this is Miss Alara, because she's like family now." "And where's my hand?" Alexander asked. Lily's expression shuddered. "You weren't here when we started, so we left space, in case you came." The conditional hurt more than exclusion. "I'm here now." "You're late now, there's a difference." Alara handed him a paint palette. "But we saved space. So if you want to be part of her family tree, you'll need to put your hand right here, next to hers, like you're supposed to be." Alexander sat down, rolled up his sleeve, dipped his hand in blue paint, and pressed it onto the paper next to his daughter's small handprint. For the first time in 3 years, they touched, through paint and paper and a teacher's manipulation, and Alexander felt something crack open in his chest. There, Lily whispered, now we're all together. She had no idea how much that statement would cost him, or how much he was willing to pay. By the fourth Tuesday session, Alexander Elliot realized he wasn't just learning how to be present for his daughter. He was falling for the woman teaching him how, and that terrification would force him to make the hardest choice of his life. The sessions had become routine. Every Tuesday at 3 p.m., Alexander cleared his schedule, actually cleared it, no exceptions, and spent 2 hours in Alara Reed's classroom doing art projects, reading books, and slowly learning how to talk to his daughter again. Week 2, they'd built a tower out of blocks. Lily explained the rules with patient detail, and Alexander learned she'd inherited his engineering mind. Week 3, story time. Alara read while Lily sat on Alexander's lap for the first time in over a year. He'd forgotten how small she was, how her hair smelled like strawberry shampoo, how she still sucked her thumb when she was tired. Week 4, feelings journal. They drew pictures of emotions. Lily drew herself as a rain cloud with a tiny sun peeking through. That's me, she'd explained, sad but trying. Then she'd drawn Alexander as a tall building with no doors. That's Daddy, strong but locked. The metaphor had destroyed him. Now it was week 5, and Alexander sat on a tiny plastic chair watching Alara teach Lily how to braid, using thick yarn and popsicle sticks as practice before trying real hair. Under, over, pull tight, Alara demonstrated. See, you're getting it. Lily's tongue poked out in concentration. Like this. Perfect, you're a natural. Can I try on your hair? Alara smiled. Of course. She turned, and Lily carefully began working her small fingers through Alara's dark hair. It was intimate, gentle, the kind of moment Alexander knew he'd never get back with his daughter, those early years when she'd wanted him to brush her hair, read to her, tuck her in. He'd missed it all. Buried himself in work after his wife's death because grief was easier to avoid than to feel, and Lily had paid the price. Mr. Elliot, Alara's voice pulled him back. You're supposed to be practicing too. She handed him yarn and sticks. Their fingers brushed, and Alexander felt something he hadn't felt since his wife died, a pull, recognition, the terrifying sense that this woman understood parts of him he'd forgotten existed. I don't know how to braid, he admitted. Then learn. Lily will need you to do her hair for ballet recitals, school pictures, life. Alara's eyes held his. Unless you're planning to hire someone for that too. The barb hit its mark. I'm trying. I know, and it matters, her voice softened. She talks about you constantly now, about how Daddy came to her session, how Daddy learned to braid, how Daddy actually listened when she told him about her day. A pause. You're giving her something money never could, time, presence, you. Because you forced me to. Because you chose to, I gave you the push. But you keep showing up. That's not me. That's you deciding your daughter matters more than your board meetings. Alexander wanted to argue, to maintain the fiction that he was only here under duress, but the truth was more complicated. He was here because Lily needed him. But he kept coming back because of Alara. The way she saw through his defenses, the way she challenged him, the way she loved his daughter without expecting anything in return. She was everything his late wife had been, warm, present, genuinely kind, and everything he'd convinced himself he didn't deserve to have again. Daddy, look, Lily held up her completed braid. I did it. That's beautiful, sweetheart. Now you try on Miss Alara. Alexander's hand stilled. I don't think. Please, Daddy, I want to see if you learned it right. He looked at Alara, found her already watching him with an expression he couldn't read. It's fine, she said quietly. It's just hair. But they both knew it was. Still, Alexander moved behind her, gathered the sections of dark hair she'd let fall loose, and carefully, clumsily began to braid. His fingers brushed the nape of her neck. He heard her breath catch. felt the tension in her shoulders, and realized she felt it too. This pull, this connection, this impossible thing growing between them. "You're doing well," Alara said, voice slightly unsteady. "I have a good teacher. You have a patient one. There's a difference." Lily watched them with huge eyes, smiling, like she could see exactly what was happening and approved completely. When Alexander finished, messy but complete, Lily clapped. "Now we're all matching. We all know how to braid." "That we do," Alara agreed. But she didn't look at Lily, she looked at Alexander. And in that look was a question neither of them was ready to answer. Everything shattered the following Tuesday. Alexander arrived early, for the first time ever, carrying coffee for Alara and a stuffed rabbit for Lily that she'd mentioned wanting. But when he entered the classroom, Dr. Whitmore was there, face severe, expression grim. "Mr. Elliot, we need to talk." His stomach dropped. "Is Lily okay?" "Your daughter is fine, but we've received a complaint from the school board about Miss Reed's conduct." Alexander's blood went cold. "What complaint?" "That she's been showing inappropriate favoritism toward your daughter. That she's been using mandatory family sessions to create an inappropriate relationship with you. That she's overstepping professional boundaries." Dr. Whitmore's expression was carefully neutral. "The board is concerned about liability." "That's absurd." "Is it? You've been alone with her for 5 weeks. Your daughter has been asking you to marry her teacher. There are rumors you've been seen together outside of school." She paused. "Have you?" Alexander thought about last Saturday, running into Alara at the farmer's market, Lily begging to have lunch together, saying yes because his daughter was smiling. Spending 3 hours talking while Lily played on the nearby playground. Going home and thinking about Alara until 2 a.m. We ran into each other, socially. "And that's the problem, Mr. Elliot. Miss Reed is your daughter's teacher. There are boundaries, professional ethics, lines that shouldn't be Elliot-E'd." Dr. Whitmore handed him a folder. "The board has made a decision. Either Miss Reed is removed from Lily's classroom or Lily is removed from Westbridge." "You can't be serious." "The choice is yours. But understand, if you fight this, if you make this public, it will destroy Miss Reed's career. No school will hire a teacher accused of using a child to pursue a romantic relationship with a wealthy parent, even if it's untrue." The trap was perfect. Fight for Alara, destroy her career. Walk away, lose the woman who taught him how to be a father again. "I need to speak with her." "She's been suspended pending your decision. She doesn't know yet." "Then I'll tell her." He found Alara in her apartment, a tiny one-bedroom in Brooklyn that probably cost a quarter of his monthly car payment. When she opened the door, her eyes were red. "They called you too," Alexander said. "Dr. Whitmore, 20 minutes ago." Her voice was hollow. "I'm being suspended, pending investigation, because apparently caring about my students and being kind to their parents is now grounds for termination. I can fight this, my lawyers will destroy my career. I know how this works, Alexander. Rich man defends teacher against school board. The narrative writes itself. I become the woman who used a child to get to a billionaire. I lose my license. I never teach again." She wrapped her arms around herself. "And Lily loses another woman she loves. So what do we do?" There is no we." Her voice cracked. "There's you and Lily, and there's me stepping back before I cause more damage." "You haven't caused damage, you've caused healing. Lily is happier than she's been in years. He stopped, started over. "You made me remember how to be human again, how to be a father, how to feel something other than guilt and grief. And that's wonderful, but it doesn't change reality. I'm her teacher, you're her father. There are rules, boundaries, lines I've already Elliot-E'd by caring too much." "Caring isn't a crime." "No, but falling in love with my student's father while being accused of favoritism, that's career suicide." The confession hung between them. I didn't mean for this to happen. I meant to help Lily, to push you into being present, not to, she stopped. Tears fell. Not to fall for you in the process. Alexander moved closer. What if I'm falling too? Then we stop, right now, before we hurt Lily more than we help her. What if there's another way? There is, trust me. I've been teaching for 6 years. I've seen parents and teachers Elliot lines. It never ends well. Someone always gets hurt, and it's always the child. She wiped her eyes. So here's what's going to happen. I'm resigning, effective immediately. Dr. Whitmore will assign Lily a new teacher. Someone without baggage, without complications, without feelings that compromise their judgment. Lily will be devastated. Lily will be fine. She has you now. Actually has you, that's what matters. And you, what happens to you? I find another school, another job, another group of kids who need someone to see them. Her smile was broken. What I don't do is ruin my career and your daughter's stability because I made the mistake of caring too much. Alexander wanted to argue, to fix this, to use his money and power to make the problem disappear. But he'd learned enough in 5 weeks to know some things couldn't be bought. And Alara was right. Fighting this publicly would destroy her. Walking away would protect her career but break his daughter's heart. There was no good choice. Only sacrifice. I'm sorry, he said. So am I. Alara moved to the door, opened it. Tell Lily I love her, and that sometimes people leave not because they want to, but because they have to. She'll understand that better than anyone. Because her mother had left too. Not by choice, but the loss felt the same. Alexander walked out, went home, and found Lily in her room, surrounded by drawings of her, Alara, and him. Daddy, is Miss Alara in trouble? He sat on her bed, took her small hand. Sweetheart, Miss Alara has to leave Westbridge. She won't be your teacher anymore. Lily's face crumpled. Why, did I do something wrong? No, you did everything right. This is grown-up stuff, complicated rules that don't make sense. But she loves us, and we love her. Why can't she stay? Because sometimes love isn't enough to fix everything. Lily pulled her hand away. That's what you said about Mommy, that you loved her but she couldn't stay. Her voice was small, devastating. Is everyone I love going to leave? The question broke something fundamental in Alexander. All this time he'd thought he was protecting Lily by providing security, stability, money, safety. But what she needed was something else entirely. Someone who stayed. And he just let the only woman who'd shown her unconditional love walk away. No, he said suddenly, no, they're not. But Miss Alara, I'm going to fix this. I don't know how yet, but I promise, sweetheart, I'm going to fix this. For the first time in 3 years, Alexander Elliot made a promise to his daughter that had nothing to do with money. And everything to do with sacrifice. The next morning, Alexander walked into Dr. Whitmore's office with a decision. I'm withdrawing Lily from Westbridge, effective immediately. Dr. Whitmore's eyes widened. Mr. Elliot, if this is about Miss Reed. It's about my daughter, who needs a teacher that cares more about her well-being than bureaucratic politics, who needs me to fight for what matters instead of protecting my reputation. He placed an envelope on her desk. That's a donation. $5 million to Westbridge's scholarship fund, but it comes with a condition. Which is? Miss Reed is reinstated, all charges dropped, all complaints dismissed, and she gets a raise and a formal apology from the board. You can't buy your way out of ethical violations. There were no violations. There was a teacher doing her job, and a parent learning how to be present. If the board has a problem with that, they can decline my donation and explain to their scholarship students why they lost funding. He stood. Lily and I are leaving. We'll find a school that values teachers like Alara Reed, where compassion isn't treated like a crime. Wait, Dr. Whitmore looked at the envelope, at Alexander. The board meets tomorrow. If I present this, they might reconsider. They will reconsider, because you'll make them understand that losing a donor like me is worse than admitting they were wrong. He moved to the door. I'll give you 48 hours. If Miss Reed isn't reinstated by then, Lily and I are gone, and I'll make sure every parent in this school knows why. He walked out, and for the first time in 3 years, Alexander felt like the man his wife had married. Someone willing to fight for what mattered. 45 hours later, Elara Reed received a call. Miss Reed, this is Dr. Whitmore. I'm calling to inform you that the board has reviewed your case. The complaints have been dismissed. You're reinstated, with a raise and a formal apology, effective immediately. Elara sat in her apartment, phone shaking in her hand. I don't understand. Neither do I, frankly, but a generous donor made a compelling case for your value, and the board agreed. We'd like you back on Monday. After she hung up, Elara stared at her phone. She knew exactly who'd done this, and she needed to tell him. It changed nothing. She found Alexander and Lily at the park, Saturday afternoon. Lily on the swings, Alexander pushing, both of them laughing. When they saw her, Lily's face lit up like sunrise. Miss Elara. She ran, crashed into Elara's legs, held tight. I heard you're coming back, Lily whispered. I heard that too. Elara looked at Alexander over Lily's head. Can we talk? He nodded. They walked while Lily played on the jungle gym. You didn't have to do that, Elara said. Yes, I did. You can't buy solutions to every problem. I didn't buy a solution. I fought for what mattered. There's a difference. Alexander stopped walking. You were right about everything. I was hiding behind money instead of showing up, protecting myself instead of protecting Lily. But you taught me something important. What? That love isn't about being perfect. It's about being present. And I'm done being absent from the people I care about. Alexander. I love you. The words came out raw, honest, terrifying. I don't know when it happened, probably week 2 when you called me out for being late. Maybe earlier when Lily first said your name like a prayer. But I love you, Elara, and I'm not asking you to love me back. I'm just asking you to let me prove I can be the man who shows up. For Lily, for you, for us. Elara's eyes filled with tears. This is complicated. The school, the rules, people will talk. Let them. I'm done hiding from complications. Done choosing the easy path over the right one. He took her hands. I can't promise perfect, but I can promise present every single day, if you'll have me. What about Lily? They both looked at his daughter, who was watching them with huge, hopeful eyes. Elara laughed through tears. I think she already decided for us. Is that a yes? It's a terrified, complicated, probably going to be messy yes. She moved closer. But yes. Alexander kissed her, soft, sure, full of promises he finally knew how to keep. When they pulled apart, Lily was there. Does this mean Miss Elara gets to stay, forever? Alexander knelt. Would you like that? More than anything. Even if it's complicated, even if people talk, even if it takes time. Lily thought about it with the seriousness of someone much older. Then, Mommy used to say love isn't about easy. It's about showing up every day and choosing each other, even when it's hard. Alexander's throat tightened. She did say that. So can we choose Miss Elara every day? He looked at Elara, at this woman who'd forced him to be present, who taught him how to love his daughter again, who'd somehow become the family they both needed. Every single day, he promised. 1 year later, Alexander stood outside Westbridge Academy. Same gate, same rain, same Mercedes. But everything else was different. Lily sat in the backseat chattering excitedly about her school play, about the solo she'd gotten, about how Miss Elara, well, she's mom now, right, Daddy, had helped her practice. Elara sat in the passenger seat, his wife of 3 months, Lily's mother in every way that mattered. "Ready?" she asked, squeezing his hand. "For what?" "Lily's play, your first one you haven't missed." Alexander looked at his daughter in the rearview mirror, at his wife beside him, at the life he'd almost lost by choosing work over presents. "More than ready," he said. And as they walked into the school together, hand in hand, Lily said something that made Alexander's heart whole. "Now I have a mommy who stays, and a daddy who shows up, and we're all together. Not because money bought it, but because love, real messy, complicated love, chose it. Every single day." Thank you so much for watching till the end. I truly appreciate you for spending your time here. It means a lot more than you know. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I really want to hear from you. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment. Your support helps the channel grow and brings more stories like this your way. Thank you for being here. More amazing stories are coming, don't miss them.